There is nothing I like better to do than taking a road trip. It doesn't matter where I go or which way I go. It could be a road trip through the country, through a redwood forest. Road trips through the mountains are always a lot of fun. I've taken many road trips through the desert. I have road tripped across the prairies of the Midwest. This is a picture I took during a road trip along the California coast. Now, of course, on a road trip, some of the best pictures you get are from stopping. So if you spot something interesting while driving, by all means, find a place to pull over and get some snaps. On that same California trip, I pulled over with my friends to get a picture of this lighthouse and some of the surrounding coastal area. This is a picture I took of the Valley Wells rest stop. It's off I-15 in California. A desert rest stop can be a very good place to stop for pictures. I take a lot of pictures of mountains when I go on road trips. This is a picture of Loafer Mountain. It's in Utah, which you can see driving on Highway 89. This is a more scenic springtime picture of Loafer Mountain. My mom used to live in Sanpete County, and when I would take road trips to go see her, I'd frequently stop and get pictures of this mountain. I don't know how many pictures I've taken of it, but it is many. Loafer Mountain is such a beautiful stop. Sometimes just pulling off onto a dirt road can yield some good results. This is a picture I took taking kind of a small road trip not far from my home. Farmland and farmhouses can be some very good places to stop for pictures, especially when there's a really nice sunset coming through the clouds. Sometimes just some sheep grazing in the field can produce a very good landscape. And when you just see cows grazing in the sunset, you gotta pull over and get a good picture of that. And sometimes you just have to pull over and catch a beautiful sunset just for the heck of it. There's a picture I took during a road trip across Kansas. Now, some of the pictures on this video I got off the public domain, but all the pictures I've shown you so far are pictures I've taken on my road trips. And like I said, I'll take a road trip to just about anywhere. But my favorite road trip is to Las Vegas. I've taken at least 100 road trips to Vegas, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. Over the last 20 years, I've probably averaged about 4 or 5 trips a year to Vegas. Why? Well, you probably think I like to gamble a lot. But before I answer that question, let me ask another question. What do people usually think of when they think of Las Vegas? Well, I think a lot of times people think of the Strip. People think of slot machines, the one-armed bandits. You can play plenty of blackjack in Las Vegas. Actually, there's just about any kind of card game you can think of in the casinos. And then, of course, there is the excess. No, I suppose if you want to find a place where you can get totally wasted for the weekend, Las Vegas is a very popular place to do that. But I don't do that when I go to Las Vegas. And I don't even gamble a whole lot. There's actually a lot of fun you can have in Las Vegas without getting totally smashed and or losing all your money. Even still, those are the kinds of things that people think of when they think of Las Vegas. But for those of us that are from Las Vegas, this is how we see it. Las Vegas is home. I was born and raised in Las Vegas. I don't live there anymore, but when I think of Las Vegas, I think of it as home. And I probably didn't realize how much it was home to me until I moved away. Well, I was actually raised in North Las Vegas, which you can see there outlined in the red. It's part of the greater Las Vegas. And there's a number of other cities that surround the city of Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Valley is pretty huge. It'd probably take you 45 minutes at least to drive from one side to the other, depending on where you're starting from. Here's a picture of me when I was very little, in front of our first house in North Las Vegas. I sure do remember that white VW bus. It was wonderful cruising around in that thing. This is in our backyard. That is my dad kneeling there, and I'm the kid closest to him on the seesaw. On the other side of the seesaw is my cousin Jason. He only lived 5 houses down from us with my aunt, and so we were pretty close growing up. And here is a picture of me feeding the ducks at Lorenzi Park. And there's my sister there with the white hat, also feeding the ducks with me, and we're both just having so much fun. I know there are many who grew up in Las Vegas that have very fond memories of feeding the ducks and doing other fun things at Lorenzi Park. And the park is still there. I think it's had some remodeling in recent years, but you can still feed the ducks at Lorenzi Park. This is me with my cousin Jason again, floating down the gutter during some flash flooding. Las Vegas has much better flood control these days, but when I was growing up, flooding was a big problem. Sometimes it would rain so much you could just float right down the road. Now this picture here, it looks like my cousin and I are having some fun, but this is actually pretty mild compared to what we were used to when we'd have a flash flood. Here's a picture of a more typical level of flooding that we were used to. That is my sister there. And you can kind of see my cousin up in the top left corner. Now, as you can see, my sister is rather enjoying herself. And as for where they both are, I couldn't say for certain, but they're very likely laying right down in the middle of the road. Now, sometimes the flash floods in Las Vegas could cause a lot of damage, and I don't mean to glamorize them. But the fact is, for kids, they were a lot of fun. And there's the 3 of us all together. My cousin, my sister, and me. We had so much fun together. when we were kids. And as I've looked through and reminisced on these pictures, I couldn't help but ask, why did such a good thing have to come to an end? When I was 4, my aunt and my cousin moved. They moved back to Utah. And we just moved into their house. Like I said, it was just 5 houses down. And this is that house. My sister took this picture probably back in the mid-'80s. It's not the best quality. It's the only one we got, though. And I don't know what that shopping cart there is doing on the sidewalk. But this was a better house. It was actually a much bigger house, probably twice as big as the other one. And so this was actually a good move for us. And we would live in this house for the next 14 years. And here's a very recent picture I took of that house. And as you can see, this one looks pretty different than it did back in the 1980s. Here's a side-by-side comparison. As you can see, there's been a little remodeling. There is no more lawn. And aside from that saw palmetto in the back, there's no more trees either. The Vegas I remember was so much greener than it is today. Las Vegas has had a lot of problems with water in recent years, and the trend has been to convert everything to a more desert landscape. And I completely understand that. But I still miss the greener Las Vegas of my youth. And here's a picture of my sister and me when we're both a little older. Yeah, I know I look a little geeky, but it was the 70s. And now let's look a little bit to the right of this. This is our neighbor, Tony Prim. Now this was probably taken in the 80s, which is a good 10 years after the last one. Tony was a good guy and a good neighbor. I haven't seen him for many years. Unfortunately, we didn't have Facebook back in the 80s to stay connected with everyone. This is a picture from my 5th birthday party. This was such a fun day, and I don't even remember most of it. But every time I see this picture, I just remember how much fun I had. I'm the kid pointing the gun. I know the kid standing to my back is Kenny. He lived just across the street and a few houses over. His parents were hippies, and I remember going over to his place and seeing his family with the long hair and beads and the beanbag chairs, and it seemed like there was 4 adults, and I'm not even sure which ones were his parents. I really think they had the communal thing going on there. But Kenny was one of my very best friends. But of all the fun things I did growing up, along with the birthday parties, feeding the ducks at Lorenzi Park, or floating down the road in a flash flood, there's one thing I enjoyed doing more than anything else. And that would be a road trip on I-15. My parents were not from Las Vegas. They were actually from northern Utah. And about once a year, we'd make a pilgrimage up to their childhood home. Now, the way we'd get there was simple. We just hopped on I-15 North and kept driving until we got there. It was about a 7 or 8 hour drive. We'd visit family and friends for a bit, and then we'd head back to Vegas. And in part 2, I'm going to take you on a tour of this incredible family road trip. So stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video.